Hey, this video is going to be for a couple of different types of people. So first of all, this video might be for you if you appreciate the arts but wouldn't call yourself an artist. So just like someone who's not a musician loves going to concerts, someone who's not an artist might love watching an artist do his thing and just see the whole thing come to life. It's one of the reasons that Bob Ross was such a famous and well-known person, not because he was the greatest artist of all time, but because he was one of the few people that was showing his process from start to finish. And so I just wanted to start doing that myself because I know lots of people like seeing that process. And I really liked watching Bob Ross as a kid do that as well. So if I can inspire someone, I'm glad that I can be part of your journey. Maybe you are an artist and you've heard about palette knife painting and you've wanted to jump in yourself. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about my process. I'm going to talk about the ins and outs of palette knife painting. I've been doing palette knife painting for about I want to say 7 years now, and I'm continuing to learn, to grow, and evolve. Or you might be the person who commissioned me to do this painting. If that's the case, hello. Thank you so much for your business. Appreciate it. And I hope that you find joy and pleasure in seeing this process done as well. This is the very first time that I've ever recorded my palette knife painting from start to finish, because usually my palette knife paintings take me about anywhere from 10 to 30 hours to do. It's a really long process for me, but it's a super fun process. And so this painting took me about 16 hours, and we'll jump into that. But first, I did want to kind of introduce myself a little bit more. And so if you don't know me, my name is Theo Davis. I am a full-time artist. As of January this year, I was in a completely different industry and for 20 years was working in marketing and with students and with people and public speaking and all of that stuff. But over the course of the last year, really, I decided that as my art business was growing, that I wanted to go ahead and just make the jump and dive in headfirst with my art business for a number of reasons I won't go into now. But you are catching me getting ready to head into month 5 of being a full-time artist. And as part of that, I run the Kansas City Art Mail Club. I am an urban artist. I do primarily artwork of urban spaces, of buildings, of architecture, of structure, and things like that. And primarily it is of the Kansas City area. Now, the person who commissioned me to do this is from the Kansas City area. That's kind of the connection, even though what I'm painting is of Manchester, England. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. But if you want to learn more or join my mail club for the price of a cup of coffee, just scan the QR code you see on the screen right now, and you'll be able to learn more of that information. I send happy mail to over 800 different people across Kansas City and in 32 states right now, actually, as well. So anywho, that's my plug for my mail club. Let's jump back to this painting. So you've already seen me lay down some paint, and I'm literally just spreading it with a palette knife. What's a palette knife, you might ask? A palette knife is really, its original purpose is just to mix up the paint that you would have on your palette. And so in order to get some of these colors, like generally an artist will have a limited palette, so they won't have every single color available to them across the sun. They'll usually pick somewhere between 5 to maybe 14 colors and then mix everything they want from there. For this painting, I think I only used about 5 or 6 different colors. For the sky is 2 colors, and really it's 1 color mixed with white, and so that does make it 2 colors. The sky is cobalt blue, and then I mix it with one of the whites that I have. There's a bunch of different types of whites. Really doesn't matter. I think this is zinc white. And so the highest part of the sky, the darker blue, is more of the pure color. And then the middle part of the sky, I mix more white with it. And then the lower part of the sky, I mix even more white with it. Now, if you look at the finished product compared to what the sky is right now, you see that it does transform and it is very different. But what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying just to lay down the basic colors so that I can start to get some color value across the entire painting. One of the benefits, and here's, I want to be really clear about this. There are so many methods, so many techniques, so many ways of creating a painting. A ton of different artists can come to the exact same result, but get there in a bunch of different ways. I like to think of art and painting kind of like math. There's a lot of ways to get to the number 100. You can add, you can subtract, you can multiply. This is just my way. This is not the exclusive way. It's not the best way. It's not the right way. It's just my way. And so what I like to do is I'll actually outline the painting as best as I can with a Sharpie, just to kind of lay down roughly where I think everything's supposed to go. And then I go through pretty much the entire painting and just lay down a pretty light color that I can work from. For me personally, and different people do this, I work this way because I'm primarily a watercolor artist. And so I tend to work from light to dark. I work with my lightest values first, and then I start to lay in my darker values. But a lot of oil painters actually like to work from dark to light. So you can figure that out for yourself, what you prefer. But I like to lay down just a really basic layer of the basic colors that I'm working with so that I can kind of figure out, okay, is this light enough? Do I need to go back over something and make it even lighter? And it's actually a lot more helpful to spread paint and mix paint when the paint on the canvas is already wet. And so, yeah. So right now I'm filling in some of the sidewalk and I just mixed up some white with a little bit of blue and I think a little bit of, what is that? Ochre yellow. And yeah, it just kind of has that nice little roadway look to it, sidewalk look to it. And now I'm starting to go back in and place down some of the details. Now, right now, I'm in a full-blown panic, if I'm going to be honest, because I'm like, oh no, at this point, this happens at every single painting I do, every stage of the painting. I'm like, oh no, what have I done? I'm not an artist. I can't actually do this. This is awful. But this is just a really important process for me because once most of the canvas has some paint on it, that's when I can start visualizing and I can start seeing what parts of the painting actually need. Some people will paint a picture from top to bottom. Some people will fully paint one section of the picture and then move on to the next section. I've done a variety of different ways of doing this. And I just find for me, it's a lot better when I can lay down the paint across the whole canvas for the most part. And then I can start going back in and adding in some of those details. Now, you might be wondering, okay, Theo, so tell me more about palette knife painting. Like, why did you choose to do this? And that's a great question. I wanted to do palette knife painting because I loved how messy it was. I loved how uncontrolled it was. For a couple of years, I was a hyper-realistic artist using graphite pencils or charcoal work. I would paint people, I would draw people in figure drawings, going to classes. They take off their clothes and a bunch of us in the room are just kind of drawing what we see. And that's super fun. And I enjoyed that. I would do portrait work and that was a lot of fun as well. But it was just, it stressed me out. It was really focused. I was trying to make things look hyper realistic and I just wasn't enjoying it. And so when I found palette knife painting, I loved the messy texture of it. I loved the fact that you could only get but so detailed. You had to really focus more on how to make an impression of a place versus capturing every minute, tiny little detail. And so that's really where my love for palette knife painting came into play. It's a medium that forced me to think more big picture in how to convey texture and how to convey color and how to convey the sense of a place without having to think too hard about like the tiniest little pebble, the tiniest little speck. And so here I'm just starting to go back over this cathedral and just placing some details, trying to figure out, how much darker do I need to go? How much lighter do I need to go? How much texture do I still need to start putting in? And so I'm starting to go back over some of the previous places that I've painted, and I'm beginning to lay down a darker value. So in the beginning, I talked a little bit about how I like to paint everything pretty light. I like to use the lightest values, the lightest colors that I plan to use in the painting. And then from there, I gradually start to build up contrast. I gradually start to build up some darker values, knowing that I can go back over these colors with something darker if I need to a little bit later. And that's actually what I end up doing. And so that's how you're going to kind of see this painting come to life. You're going to see me adding in some details, some brickwork, and then later in the painting process, you'll notice me going over the exact same places because I realize, I need to add some more values and some more detail work. So, that's kind of how this goes. Now, if you're curious about this particular location and why I was commissioned for it, so this was for a client who reached out to me, I want to say last week or the week before, and they were just really interested in having me do a oil painting commission. And I was super excited. I love doing oil painting commissions. And at first they were thinking one subject. I think they were thinking the soccer stadium in Manchester. But then after some back and forth over email, they were like, you know what? No. Actually, I would love if you could do this cathedral and if you could include the worker bee. Now, originally they sent me a picture of the worker bee that you see in the bottom right-hand corner. This bee in this statue is actually in like the courtyard or one of the inner yards of the cathedral. And so I really like to just have a picture and paint from the picture, but this was going to require a little bit of composite work. So I recommended to the buyer, I said, hey, you know what I can do? I can find a better picture of the cathedral because they didn't have one in their own possession from their trip. I can find a better picture of the cathedral, and I gave them like 10 different options, and ultimately they were like, just pick whichever one you think would translate best, which I love. I love when the client just trusts the artist to art. But I said, hey, I can take a picture of the worker bee and I can actually put it somewhere else in the painting, even though it doesn't actually belong there. Since this is just a piece for you, it doesn't really matter. So I can impose it. And so that he said that would be great. And so I went ahead and got to work. I've never actually been to England myself. I've always wanted to go. I'm actually 25% British. Go figure. Thanks 23andMe for giving me that fun revelation. We think that I am of Scottish heritage, but despite the blackness, despite the locks, some stuff happened in my family tree there somewhere along the lines, and so I'm 25% British. I think Scottish because my last name Davis is a Scottish last name. And I would try and do a Scottish impression, but you would cringe. It would be very, very cringe. So we're going to skip that part and go back to the painting. So now I'm continuing to lay down some details. As you see, the door and the windows, I've laid in a pretty dark black color. It's actually not black. It's a blue mixed with brown and a little bit of white to lighten it up. I could go much darker, and I intentionally don't go very dark at first because I want to be able to go darker if I need to. So I never start with the whitest white, and I never start with pure black. I'm always starting with light colors and then slowly building up that contrast. And so here I'm still kind of spreading. I'm taking some creative choices here, And I'm spreading some more of that brickwork, that kind of foundational brickwork under the trees and under the painting here and there. And yeah, then I'll switch back to detail. But anyway, back to this location. So this is a beautiful cathedral in Manchester, England. I really enjoyed going on some different websites, and I actually bought this particular reference photo from, I think, Shutterstock or iStock Photo, one of those places. They had a really good high quality photograph. And I did that because I wanted to be able to zoom in. I wanted to see the details if I wanted to, even though I ultimately knew I wasn't going to draw any of those details. But it's really helpful to be able to like lean into the picture and see those details if I wanted to see them, so that I could try and bring out some of that stuff. Now, if you don't know, oil paintings, they have a long dry time. They usually say that it takes like a full year for an oil painting to fully cure. And that's really talking about like the thin brushwork oil painting. Usually it's dry to the touch after about 2 to 3 weeks. You will be able to like kind of touch the surface. But with my particular paintings, it's probably going to take a couple years, honestly, for it to fully dry, because I do use really thick oil, but it is dry enough for me to ship it after about, I'd say 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. It's dry enough to ship. Thankfully, this buyer is in the Kansas City area, so I can just put it in the back of my car, face up, drive it to the client's house, and then drop it off and just tell them not to press on any of the big oil clumps. Otherwise, they might have little extra additions to their painting. But anyway, as you see, I'm just going back over different parts of the painting, and I'm trying to bring in more detail. I'm trying to like visually tell myself, like, can I tell that this wall is at a different angle? Can I tell this wall is in shadow? Can I tell this is supposed to be brickwork and not just drywall? And so I'm continuing to lay down some more paint. I'm adding in some more details and just building up more and more of the picture, while leaving out some elements. Now, in the original picture I think I took, there was like a British sign, one of their traffic signs somewhere. I think there was a few light posts that were covering up some of the cathedral. And as an artist, you know what? I get to make and choose some creative license myself. Now, you might be wondering, well, Theo, like you said, you like to cover the whole thing in paint. Why is it that you left some of these spots, some of these areas still pink? And why is it even pink to begin with? Let me answer that question. There is absolutely no good reason why I left those spots pink. I think I just did not have the mental energy to do what I needed to do to cover those spaces without it taking too much of my energy. If I'm completely honest, I was just like, you know what? I need to just get farther. I need to get more progress with this painting before I start trying to add more paint on those things that I think are going to be kind of hard. And one of the things that made this bee in particular hard is because it's mostly white. And so that meant I was going to have to play with different shades of gray in order to try and bring out the fact that this is a white bee that has landed on top of what appears to be a white egg with a bunch of religious symbols on it. I'm assuming, I haven't really done a lot of research into this particular worker bee, but I'm assuming it's kind of like a unity thing. It's got the crescent moon on it, the Star of David, it's got the Christian cross, and a bunch of different things. And so, like, and the worker bee itself has a cool story behind it, which I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not going to try and, like, recite it from memory. But I really love the story behind this bee overall. It's a very working class community, and it's representative of the people in that community. And so now I've pretty much, except for 2 little spots that I can see on this video, I've pretty much covered up the entire painting with wet paint. Now, again, you might have wondered, like, hey, Theo, what was that pink about? all the pink that was kind of the undertone, and that's precisely what it is, an undertone. It's kind of a neutral tone that I've found from other artists is really helpful in the painting process. So when I first started painting, I would just paint directly on the white canvas. And I was usually pretty happy with how my stuff was turning out. However, what I realized was that my stuff was way too dark, or it was way too light because I was comparing the paint that I was putting on the canvas to the pure white of the canvas. And so that made my colors seem a lot lighter or a lot darker because I was basing all of my colors off of this white canvas. And so something that a lot of artists do is they'll tone their canvas with a particular color. Some people like toning their canvas with brown. Some people like toning their canvas with blue. Some people will tone their canvas with a variety of different colors based on what they're painting. I like to tone my canvas with pink because I'll know right off the bat, like, oop, here's a spot that I have not yet filled with paint. I want it to kind of really jump out at me and stand out. And I intentionally leave a few spots of pink on the painting itself so that people can kind of see that undertone a little bit. The pink that you see on the canvas right now, I'm totally going to cover up, but in the final product, like when you get really close to it, on some of the edges, in between the buildings, like you will see some of that pink shining through, and that's an intentional choice. For me, that's just an artistic choice. It's just like it's a little bit of a signature for me that I like to start leaving a little bit of that pink shining through because I think it actually adds a little bit of value to the painting overall. And so now I'm adding in some flowers. I think there were only yellow flowers in the painting, but I decided to add in some blues and some yellows and even some pinks. And specifically, I'm just pulling other colors from other parts of this canvas and putting it in the flower bed just to kind of accent everything. So I'm not pulling out completely different tubes. I'm still just working with cobalt blue, ochre yellow. I think I used burnt umber, zinc white, a regular yellow, and a regular red. And I'm pretty sure it was just those 6 colors that I worked with. Now, probably my favorite part of the painting process, I'm going back to the sky and I'm filling in the sky because right now the sky is pretty flat and it just has those 3 tones. And one of the things that I'm really known for is just having fun with the skies in my painting. I think the sky is an unsung hero in a lot of paintings. Sometimes people will just put a really flat sky there or just some fun colors. But for me, because of the medium of oil paint and palette knife painting, I can actually create a sense of flow. I can create a sense of texture. I can create a sense of almost water moving through the sky. And sometimes I lean more into that Van Gogh style and create swirls. Sometimes I just lean into that flowing river, that sense of wind kind of moving through the sky. And that's what I'm starting to do here. What I'll do is I'll work from the bottom and work my way up, or I'll go from the top and work my way down. I'll start with the lightest value and just start laying on a lot of thick oil paint, because now that there's a layer of oil paint already there, the paint that I put on top slides through and blends in a whole lot easier. And so I'm going to start going back and forth, mixing darker colors with lighter colors so that I'm kind of erasing this harsh transition line between the dark blue and the mid-tone blue and the light blue with the mid-tone blue. And I just kind of I keep dancing around, and I put the darker colors in places that you are like, oh, I wouldn't have gone that far. Cool. That's okay. I did. And you can make those choices as an artist as you're playing with it. And there's no right or wrong answer. This is my piece of work. And I just kind of had fun with it. And so I just keep pouring out more of the white paint, mixing it on my palette with the blues, and just putting on a generous helping of paint. I've probably put on a good, I want to say maybe a full pound of paint at this point, maybe 1.5 pounds of paint. It's definitely a heavy canvas as a result of all the oil paint. So yeah, at this point, we're starting to come close toward the end. And so I'm really focusing on details and going back through and trying to clean up some stuff, trying to add some more features that I think will help bring out the painting a whole lot more. One of the very last things that I tend to do is I tend to put the darkest values at the very end. And so what I've done for my darkest color, I actually take that pure cobalt blue, and then I take the pure burnt umber, and I mix it with a little bit of white so that it's still not as dark as it possibly can be. And I kind of use that as black. And so I'm going to start in a little bit going back over some of the edges of the building, the edges of the tree, the edges of the windows, and I'm trying to just bring out some of that three-dimensional look, trying to show very clearly where the lines begin, where the lines end, where the building kind of angles at different places. And you'll see me kind of go back through and start to chop in, almost slice in with the knife, these globs of paint in different places. And that's pretty much my process. I can do just about any setting, any scene with a palette knife, as long as it's of a decent size canvas, like a 20 by 20. I'm getting ready to start working on I want to say 20 by 40 painting of the Kansas City skyline, which I'm really excited about. But if you have a desire for a painting like this, I would love to create one for you. Usually takes me a few days to do, and I have to find space in my schedule, but my commissions are currently open as of the recording of this video, and would love to partner with you. Just know that I usually can't create art like, the very next week unless, it's a rush order, and then there's different charges for that. But I can do pretty much anything in this style. So as long as you look at my other oil painting styles that are palette knife and you love the vibe, you love the look, I can absolutely translate a home, some other place, an office, whatever it might be, in that style. And so you can just head to my website, reach out to me, and I would love to create something for you for someone's birthday or as a gift, home coming present, or whatever it might be, and I would love to do that for you. And if you want to just keep following me on my artistic journey, please make sure to like and subscribe. That really helps out my channel as I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel and help other people learn how to art well, how to do this art thing and have fun in the process. Or if you just want to keep watching me do my thing, you can subscribe as well. There was a commenter on my last video that said, like, hey, I would love to watch your videos, but the music is distracting. Would you mind taking out the music? If you made it this far into the video, let me know if you watched it and whether or not having no music in the background helped you, or if it helped anyone else out there. This is, again, a new channel. I'm trying to figure out how do I create these videos. So any feedback you leave me in the comments below would be helpful. Thanks so much, guys, for watching this how to paint the Manchester Cathedral building with me, and hope to make many more videos in the future. Again, head to my website for more info and to sign up for my mail club, which goes out at the beginning of every month for the price of a cup of coffee. Thanks a lot, guys.